Our next speaker is Scott Capozza. Scott is a physical therapist for Yale Cancer Center Survivorship Clinic since October of 2006. He develops exercise plans uniquely tailored to survivors' needs and personal preferences. Scott has also used his experience working as the lead therapist trainer in the Hormones and Physical Exercise Study, which is the HOPE study, to educate breast cancer survivors on the importance of exercise to reduce fatigue, bone loss, and joint pain caused by hormone therapy. As a longtime survivor of testicular cancer, Scott has shared his personal story of cancer survivorship to oncology professionals, college and high school students. I've heard Scott speak, I've talked to him. You're going to really be entertained and learn something about exercise and physical therapy in the cancer survivor world.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you for having Maura and I here today. We're very honored to be a part of Survivor Journeys and being a part of this awesome day. Yes, as Maura was alluding to before, I'm the second half. She's my better half. As far as our work couple is concerned, we've been working together for 11 years now at Yale, and it became Smile Cancer Hospital in 2009. We are two components of our multidisciplinary survivorship clinic. Our clinic has myself, has Maura, has a social worker, and has a medical director. So we really try to focus on the multiple aspects of survivorship. But what I'd like to do first, if you allow me, is I will tell you a little bit about my story as to how I got to be in this position and how I get to be standing in front of you today. So I went to Ithaca College in upstate New York to get my physical therapy degree. It was a 5-year master's program. And in my last year of school, I'm geared up, I'm ready to go. I had been running competitively all through high school and all through college. I considered myself to be pretty in shape, especially compared to my buddies. They would all be going out on Friday nights and eating lots of pizza and drinking lots of beer, and I'd have to stay in because I'd have to race the next morning. So I was now getting ready to try to qualify to run the Boston Marathon after running competitively all through high school and college. And all through high school, all through college, I never drank, never smoked, never did drugs. Yes, I was boring, I get that. But I was living a pretty healthy lifestyle, right? And there's also no family history of cancer in my family. So I was a little bit shocked when I was diagnosed with stage 2 testicular cancer on October 30th, 1998. I underwent a couple of surgeries and orchiectomies to remove the tumor. Found out that the cancer had spread, so I had a lymph node dissection to remove cancerous lymph nodes in my abdomen. And as I'm trying to recover from those surgeries, my doctors tell me that I need to also undergo a couple of rounds of chemotherapy. Now, this is a couple of years ago where, as Natasha was alluding to, the bleomycin, they were still using bleomycin as part of the chemotherapy regimen for testicular cancer. So I am trying to recover from 2 surgeries. I'm about to start chemotherapy. And my oncologist sits me down and says, "You will lose your hair. You will be nauseous. Your immune system probably will drop. Your red blood cells might drop as well. Do you have any questions?" Oh no! Where'd we go? That's what I asked my oncologist. And he thought I was crazy. Because in 1998, 1999, the conventional thinking for all cancer patients was, don't exercise. Conserve your energy. We don't want you to move while you're going through treatment. And for me, I like to think I was a little bit ahead of the curve because In 2010, there was a radical shift in thinking about this. While I was going through my own treatments, I had to run on the days that I felt good. Now, granted, I had my days that I definitely did not feel good. It took all the energy I could to get from my bedroom to the living room. But on the days that I felt somewhat good, I'm going to try to do something. And I needed to do that not just physically, but I needed to do it mentally, right? As we're going through this cancer process, we don't have a whole lot of control. The doctors tell us when to show up for our appointments. The doctors tell us when to show up for, blood work and our radiation, our chemo, and everything else like that. This was the only way that I knew how to stay in control of my life, was to be able to keep running however I could. But yes, in 2010, there was this landmark roundtable discussion by the American College of Sports Medicine where they had actually been doing some research, and they were realizing, oh no, it's actually better for our cancer patients and our cancer survivors to move. We want them to do some level of exercise while they're going through treatment, and especially in their survivorship stage when they're done with their active treatments. And Dr. Recolaitis was touching upon this a few minutes ago, or earlier this morning. This cancer-related fatigue, it's a real thing, and it can last for up to 2 years in some patients, and we need to be able to try to fight that through movement. And again, some of the big physiological reasons why we want to keep moving: we want to maintain our muscle strength and our muscle mass, we want to maintain our cardiovascular endurance, we want to maintain our immune system, and again, the mental aspect of trying to be in control of what's going on here. A couple other things that I want to point out that if we can see the benefits of exercise for all of our breast cancer survivors who are on the aromatase inhibitors, right, the letrozole, the anastrozole, we know for a fact that the two major side effects, we know that this medicine works. We know that those hormone therapies work, right, to prevent a reoccurrence of breast cancer. But we also know that they come along with two really nasty side effects. One of them is accelerated bone loss, and the other one is joint pain. Every woman who comes into our clinic who's on this medication, they say the same thing. They say, I feel like I've aged 20 years. My joints, you're nodding, my joints ache, right? And I don't know why. Right? So the patient doesn't know why all of a sudden their joints are achy. They're going to go to their primary care physician and say, my joints are achy. They're going to say, oh, you've got classic arthritis. It's not classic arthritis. It's medically induced arthritis. The other big thing that I see at our clinic is the peripheral neuropathy, and I know that question came up earlier. I don't know where it came from, and so we can talk a little bit more offline. But what I can tell you, in addition to acupuncture as being one option for that, that there actually is therapy, occupational therapy and physical therapy to address that. But again, this peripheral neuropathy can last for up to 2 years following the end of treatment. So that's when you would want to be able to see a PT or an OT who's had experience working with cancer survivors to help treat that. And then lymphedema is its own separate certification. OTs and PTs can become certified in lymphedema treatment. And then obviously there's some issues with range of motion as well with certain treatments and radiation therapy. So what are the recommendations for exercise for our cancer survivors? And the recommendation, I know this is a big number, so please don't get freaked out by the number. We want our survivors to try to build up to 150 minutes a week of some sort of cardiovascular exercise. And it doesn't matter what that exercise is. It can be walking, it can be cycling, it can be swimming, it can be getting into the pool. If you have mobility issues, walking may not be your best option. So maybe getting to the pool, or maybe using like a new step machine that they have at the YMCAs. There are going to be multiple options available. I always try to find out what does the patient like to do. I'm not going to tell everybody that they have to do a particular form of exercise. And again, Dr. Recolaitis was talking about this a little bit earlier, kind of like that happy zone, like that rehab zone. The goal is not to turn everybody into an Ironman triathlete, right? That's overdoing it. But I want you to move a little bit, enough to actually get the cardiovascular benefit of exercise. So from a numbers standpoint, that's about 50 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. A lot of the Fitbits now, and the Apple Watches actually can measure your heart rate. So that's a really good way to do that. And then we also want you to try to incorporate strength training twice a week into your week. So, well, the question is, how do we actually practically do this? If you're coming out of treatment and you've got cancer-related fatigue and you're tired, how are you actually going to do this? Again, I don't expect this to happen overnight. This is going to be a gradual build-up process. So again, start with 5 or 10 minutes of walking or 15 minutes of walking, and actually give yourself a recovery day, right? So try to go for a 10 or 15 minute walk on a Monday, recover Tuesday. Go for another 10 or 15 walk on Wednesday, recover Thursday. Try again on Friday or Saturday. It's okay to give yourself a recovery day in there. What I want you to do is I want you to try to take those walks, those 10 or 15 minute walks, and gradually build it up to 20. Gradually build up to 25. Once you can get to 30, 30 is kind of like our magic number. If you can get to 30-minute walks 3 times a week, then you can think about adding a 4th day, right? But I want you to build your endurance first before you think about adding a 2nd day, or additional days rather. Oh, so oops. So people will always ask me, what is the best time of the day to exercise? Should I exercise in the morning? Should I exercise in the evening? Should I go on my lunch break, whatever? Now here's the honest truth. Exercise whenever you have time, right? I get really good, especially in my life stage now. I look at my calendar on a Sunday night and I see what is my week going to look like, because sometimes my days don't look the same. If you know that you've got an early morning meeting, a 7 o'clock meeting on a Tuesday, maybe you don't want to get up early to get up and exercise. Maybe you're going to do that at the end of the day. Or if you know you're going out to dinner that night with friends, okay, maybe you're going to exercise in the morning, so that way you don't have to worry about it later in the day. Maura and my colleagues will tell you I am infamous for running on my lunch break, or running in the middle of the day. I throw my clothes in the car, I change at clinic. I also bring some baby wipes with me, so that I don't stink too badly for the patients that we see in the afternoon. But because I know that that's the only time of the day that it's going to happen, so I have to get creative. So it's okay, you can be creative with this. Bring a friend, recruit a friend. The buddy system is a powerful way to keep you motivated, and it's somebody else that keeps you accountable as to what's going on. So if you call your friend Mary Jane, or you send her a text and say, hey, let's go meet at the Y, or let's go meet at the boardwalk, on Saturday for a walk, you better show up. Because if you're not there by 8:10, you're gonna get an angry phone call or an angry text. I'm here, where are you? Right? So having somebody there to hold you accountable definitely helps with adherence. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit too, and I know that the Livestrong program was here today. The idea of these exercise groups specifically for cancer survivors, there's something very powerful in that. Not just physically exercising together with other cancer survivors, people who obviously get it, but it's kind of like a built-in support group at the same time, right? Because everybody can kind of relate to each other about, oh yeah, we've all been down this road together. So these cancer survivor-specific exercise classes that are out there, they're very, very powerful. So take advantage of them if you have them in your neighborhood. Set a goal. I personally need to do this. I need to be able to look ahead in the future. I need to be able to plan ahead. I need to then plunk down my registration fee for some 5K somewhere or some event somewhere, because that keeps me honest. It keeps me motivated to keep moving. Actually, I'm going to pick on Maura again, because was it last year? It was 2 years ago, 3 years ago that you went to the Grand Canyon, right? So she had this great trip planned to the Grand Canyon. And she asked me, she goes, how do I train for the Grand Canyon? Because I want to hike down and up and go to Phantom Ranch. I said, it's not enough just to go for a hike on the weekend. you've actually got to hike with 10 or 15 pounds of gear on your back because you have to carry everything in and carry everything back out. So it's kind of, you know, you can do something fun like that, like a destination vacation or something like that, like an active vacation, and that's your goal. That's what you can build towards. So it doesn't have to be a race. Like, there are lots of options out there for you. And track your progress too. That's really, really powerful to be able to say, hey, beginning of June, you know, I wasn't really doing much for exercise. I was maybe doing 20 minutes a week or 30 minutes a week, whatever. But if you start to gradually build up your exercise through the course of the summer, then you get to Labor Day and you can look back and you can say, wow, look where I am now compared to where I started at the beginning of the summer. And there's all kinds of technology now. You can track this on the Fitbits. I mean, there's multiple apps just for cycling alone. But listen, it's very easy to just go pen to paper and track it that way. Again, these community resources are great. The Livestrong program is a great option for you. There are certified cancer exercise trainers that are out there. So those are the that's you look for those as far as trainers to work with. So I have to tell you, I have to be honest with you that I used all of those tips that I just told you about in my own recovery. So as I got done with chemo, I started training again. I set my goals. I set short-term goals, and I set a long-term goal of trying to get back to qualify for the Boston Marathon. I ran my first 5K post-treatment, ran my first 10K post-treatment, and then I was thinking, this might actually happen. I had a training partner. I registered for a new marathon, and exactly a year to the day that I got out of the hospital for my lymph node dissection, and only 7 months after ending chemotherapy, I had to run 3 hours and 10 minutes to qualify for Boston, and I ran to Cape Cod, and I ran 3 hours and 8 minutes. So that was, the Cape Cod race was my comeback race, and then when I ran the Boston Marathon 2 months later, that was my confirmation. But I will admit, you know, all these years later, it's hard. It's hard to keep up with the training, and, you know, full disclosure, I have not run a marathon in years. But it has less to do with the 3 chemotherapy drugs that I was on and more to do with these 3.